All right, I think it's time. We will let people trickle in if they need to be coming in at any other points. But good morning if you're on the West Coast or somewhere in between. Good afternoon to those of us on the East Coast. I am so delighted to be welcoming Sydney White of Vertical Ledge for Small Changes, Big Impact, the psychology of visual merchandising. This is such a hot topic. We really appreciate everyone taking time out of their busy holiday schedules. And this is a really special moment for us. Sydney and I have been getting to know each other over the last couple of years, and what we do is so different, and yet the mindset is very much the same. So, for anyone who is new to Up Next and the retail playground, I'm just going to give a little bit of context. We are all about fostering opportunities, cultivating community, and creating the future of retail as a flexible vehicle for growth. And so Vertical Ledge is all about flexibility and creating these fixtures and resources that allow founders to really thrive and be in so many different places and formats and level up their visual presentation. And we are all about supporting that from behind the scenes and finding pop-ups and places where founders can put themselves out there or come together and collaborate. And Sydney is just so clear in her openness and lack of gatekeeping to all of these things. And we truly appreciate that here at Up Next. We're headquartered on the East Coast in Boston. Had the opportunity to have Sydney and Andre come and visit us this past summer, which was such a pleasure to finally meet in person. And we recently launched the Retail Playground, which is a community made by founders for founders like you who want to be working for themselves, but never by themselves. And so it's a very special place where we're already seeing so much unique collaboration and resource sharing and bringing people together on a very regular basis to talk about what the challenges are, what the opportunities are, and how we can support one another through all of that. And so this program today feeds so perfectly into our mission and giving tools to founders to make it all happen. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sydney just momentarily. She has a robust presentation prepared and we'll be taking Q&A at the end, but I do encourage you to drop questions in the chat as they come to mind. So we'll have an opportunity to run through those together at the very end, in addition to any live Q&A as well. So Sydney, if you'd like to share your screen and take it away, welcome. Thank you for being here. I think I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Allison Yee. I'm the founder and CEO behind the company, and I'm joined by our amazing Small But Mighty team. And Sydney, with that, please take it away.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. What a great introduction. I'm really excited to be here. Yes, we did get to take a small business trip. Oh, how we love taking business trips at Vertical Edge, because it's like the only time we can travel. But we were visiting a trade show that we were walking through in DC, and I was like, oh, Boston is like right next to DC. We'd like take the train and just like hang out with the Up Next team, because I've been really wanting to see them in person. Turns out it was like a 7-hour train ride, but it was like an 80-minute flight. And so we found tickets at Spirit Airlines for like $80. And I was like, wow, that's unheard of. Let's go. A lot to say on Spirit Airlines, but hey, it was cheap. And we got there and we got to visit Allison and Kristen, and we were just so excited. Their office, which is the background in Allison's photo, is so cute. It is like a dream. I would love to work in that space all day. I'm sure it can be very distracting though. Beautiful spaces are hard to work in sometimes. So without further ado, we're gonna just jump right in. It is my first time using Canva presentation mode. So, bear with me if you see some notes or some things you're not supposed to see. It's okay. We're human and we're in this together. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to start with, just a quick introduction, which you guys are already doing in the comments. So keep telling us where you're from. What is the weather like? Because that's the question we all want to know. It's very nice and chilly here in Seattle, raining, no surprise. So you can also put comments and questions in the chat. We want to be active there. The psychology behind product perception is what we're going to start with. So it's kind of the foundation of the first half of the presentation. Then we're going to jump into some immersive retail experiences. I'm going to talk about IKEA and Target and Costco, some of the stores that we all shop at. And I want you to, when you're in these stores, think about the things that I'm telling you, and then figure out how you can use them in your own booth in retail spaces. I know we're not all booth here, but we do have some brick and mortar retail stores. We have some people that do really big trade shows for wholesales. We have people that do just a few markets throughout the year that are very select, but these strategies can be applied to all those different spaces. From there, we're going to do what you guys really want to do and talk about strategic layouts and customer flow. I found a really great resource. And I'm really excited to share those because I was like, wow, these are really helpful. And I think they're going to be helpful for you. Then we're going to talk about like tactics from those layouts. And then at the end, hopefully we will have time for some live Q&A, but I will also be showing you kiosk number 5. I've got that promo video edited. If you guys could just keep your video on mute and then just hold thoughts to the end. Let's do this. My name is Sydney. Most of you guys know me as the co-founder at Vertical Ledge. We started in 2018 and we just recently celebrated our 6 years of business. Our main objective for today is to understand why visual merchandising matters and then the actual practical takeaways. So I encourage you to take notes throughout this presentation, but you will also be given a follow-up PDF that has like 50 bullet points and then a bunch of links and then some layouts and stuff like that. So you don't have to go dig for all of this stuff. And then as Allison reminded us, it will be in the Retail Playground platform for those of you that are members there. So we started in 2018. You can see all of these photos are from various stages of our business. When Andre had a man bun, to when my hair was just a fluffy mess, and it usually is because it's very humid here in Seattle and it just goes poof. And I know you guys understand that, especially when you're setting up for a market and you start sweating. So throughout the years, and this is all from our website, you can go check it out. I don't want to spend too much time on Vertical Ledge here, but we've gone from a very simple base 3-tiered stand, something very minimal back in 2018. And oddly enough, you couldn't find anything like that on Etsy. So now you can find them all over the place, which is great. We love that. But now fast forward to 2022, and we're doing full trade show build outs, full retail store build outs, custom carts, and all sorts of fun stuff that gets me really excited about just pivoting in business and continuing to grow, not always sticking to the thing that you started with, even though it kind of feels like we still have that display. We don't. It has evolved quite a bit. Some notables, some things behind the scenes I wanted to share with you guys that we don't always put on our social media. One is we did a really cool Coca-Cola cart this last year, and as cool as that was, it was a pain in the rear. So landing big clients doesn't always mean everything's good and grand. So just keep that in mind as you're growing your business. We just finished a champagne cart at the Fairmont in Canada. We've partnered with the REI Makers Collective. That's kind of like a venture capital model for makers. If you're interested in something like that, check them out. Obviously, they focus on the outdoor stuff. So if you make something for the outdoors, we've partnered with Makesy, obviously Up Next, Crafter, Founder Made, and other countless businesses. And we have designed over 120 unique different models, which is crazy. But if you've been following us for a long time, you're probably like, that makes sense because I can't find that one stand anymore. Yeah, I know. Don't get mad at me. It's just small business. On a more personal note, I was a health coach for a number of years, as well as a yin yoga instructor. That's where you get a lot of my mindfulness when it comes to business and stuff online. I love the sauna. We installed one in our backyard last year and I've loved it. I love to hike and walk all over. We have a corgi. I'm not going to show him because he's just going to bark. And then we're always in a constant renovation. After 6 years of running a small business, the thing I wish I knew when I started was just to keep going. Like no matter what happens, whether it's a high or a low, just keep going because you're never going to know where you're going to end up if you just stop at the first challenge. So keep going, guys. Drop in the comments, like I already said, your name, your business, what you sell, and where you primarily sell. Do you sell at booths, online, on Shopify, on Etsy? Get into the nitty gritty. Let's see what we have in common there. And then also in the comments, I'm going to have some slides that ask us about things. We're not going to do too much like back and forth discussion on them, but I want to know what you think when you see these images. And I wanted to start with the bad one because I want to end with the good one. I don't want to end with us feeling whatever it is that we're feeling from this image, right? I personally am like, I'm not going in. Wherever these are, I'm not going in there to shop. I don't even want to know what kind of deals they are. And yes, this one is from Costco, but with all the toilet paper nonsense, I thought I'd throw it in there. Now what comes to mind? And I just wanted you to think about the word mind. When we're talking about psychology and visual merchandising, they go hand in hand. You can't separate them because everybody has their own experience of life. And then what we perceive of said products and in that space is really important. I'm going to tie it all together. So just hang in here with me. I love these stores. I would probably live in the one with the bookshelf there. All those pillows. I'm guessing they sell pillows. If they're not, they're really not hitting the mark there. But anyway, okay, so psychology. Perceived value is important because presentation impacts how much a customer is willing to spend on your product. And our brains associate visual cues with quality and durability. And when it comes to perceived value, it's your own lived experience. So where you grew up, what you grew up buying and using and having versus how the product is presented. And somewhere in the middle is this really annoying space where perceived value is very individual. I love to think about art in this way because if I have a piece of artwork that I've made and I have a beautiful piece in my living room, everybody's like, you should sell that. You could sell it for like $10,000. And I'm like, no amount of money would make me want to sell this piece because it means a lot to me. And quite honestly, I don't want to sell everything I make. It's just exhausting. And I know you guys can relate with that. Sometimes you just want to make to make. So when we're talking about perceived value, we're going to talk about 4 basic pillars. One is building perception through presentation. We're going to talk about diamond stores here. Then we're going to create a lifestyle vision. We're also going to think about IKEA. We're going to talk about guiding customers to explore more. It's like treasure hunt effect that I'm really excited about. I added that to this presentation, and we're going to talk about Costco. And then we're going to talk about Target and impulse buys. Visual merchandising is about shaping perception to make products more desirable. I'm going to repeat that. Visual merchandising is about shaping the perception to make products more desirable. It's a whole science behind getting consumers to buy more through specific tactics that are tried and true from really big brands that we envy and shop at all the time. So let's dive in. So when we're looking at a diamond store, it's beautiful from the lighting, the glass presentation, the locked cases, the way that the store is laid out. Everything is very, very specific. And a lot of money goes behind the displays and the lighting and the paint color and the mood that diamond stores set up. And why is this? Because diamonds innately have a very high price to them. So when we think about consumers, 93% of consumers consider visual appearance key in decision making. So imagine, you're going to go buy a diamond ring or a necklace or earring, whatever it is for the holidays. You are definitely not going to go to a market. You are definitely not going to go to a booth on the side of the road that looks a little janky. And it's because you can't trust it. It doesn't feel like it's quality. And so this is a really easy example of how your product can either be perceived very high end based on location, lighting, the cases, the colors and the layout versus, you could take that exact same diamond, $2,000 and go place it on the side of the road. It's still $2,000, but nobody's going to pay $2,000 on the side of the road for it, which is bizarre to me. but it's just the world in which we live in. So we're gonna move on. IKEA's lifestyle showrooms. So who here loves IKEA? I just went there the other day. I was meeting up a friend, and IKEA is like an hour drive from me. So if I'm going anywhere south of Seattle, I'm like, oh, do I need anything from IKEA? I'm looking at a closet system. And I really enjoyed walking through IKEA because obviously they have these beautiful rooms in which they are curated and handpicked and manicured. And honestly, one of the things I've noticed about IKEA recently is they have been changing their layout in their rooms quite much more frequently than they used to. It used to be like once every 2 years they would change. Now it's almost every 6 months, there's a renovation in IKEA happening. And why is that? Because when you can imagine yourself in the space the products are in, AKA lifestyle selling, it's much easier for the customer to want to purchase that item because they want the lifestyle in which it's being portrayed. So example, right? This like outdoor, it's like a blue house with some nice brick. I'm already like, oh, that's really nice brick. I want to go in there. And then you get in there and you're like, oh, I definitely need this stool to match the countertop that looks just like the thing in my house that I want. And then they get you by adding all these other things. Everything in their store is shoppable. You can scan it, go pick it up. I think that's one of the greatest things. Slightly annoying when it's out of stock, but it's still there on the room floor. So essentially what you want to do here is inspire your customers through some kind of immersive experience. Help your customers imagine the products in their own lives. A lot of times this can be done very simply through photos in a very nice frame or really big banners. I'm not a big fan of the huge banners, but in certain particular situations, they can work really, really well. So all of my slides have a really fun little fact at the end. I may talk about them, I may not. Feel free to read them. The biggest thing here, I think with IKEA, if we're really talking about it, the lifestyle spaces go beyond functionality, more using the decor and lighting to inspire the customers to buy more. I mean, you don't just go to IKEA and buy one thing. It's just not how it goes. And then a little tidbit here on the layout. Let's talk about this for a second. First of all, we've got elevation. I'm always going to point out the vertical height used in spaces. Here, it almost just looks like pallets, right? With a carpet on top and you're going upwards towards that bed. They've got way signs. So a lot of us aren't going to have this because our spaces don't need way signs, but path finding is super important in psychology. Even the floor difference between the walkway and the space that you're going into. It's like, oh, boom, automatically you're changing that environment. Also here, we've got more vertical height. We've got tons of lighting everywhere. So you can tell there's not this big industrial, ugly lighting. They've got spotlights everywhere on very specific things. We also have signage. So I highlighted a bunch of signs that kind of blocked out the signs, but the signs are everywhere, which honestly is very helpful as a consumer, right? I mean, it just is. And then as far as the pathway, right? You're going to veer in and out of these spaces because you're curious. So who here shops at Costco? If you haven't shopped at Costco, you know what Costco is, right? It is insane. Okay, who here loves going to Costco at this time of year because they have all that new stuff and it's like fun to just like go look around. You can tell I'm one of those people. Me and Andre literally went on a date the other night. We're like, should we go out to dinner or should we go like hang out at Costco? And it's embarrassing, but I was like, let's go to Costco. I really want to check out what they have. I want to just like, instead of spending that $100 on a nice dinner, let's go get something from Costco because I know they have all the good holiday stuff. But then like, who here also just like, I'm going to order online. I'm definitely going to skip all the nonsense. I don't want to look around because I know I'm going to buy stuff that I don't need. You know, the first thing that they say to you at Costco when you go to check out is, did you find everything you were looking for today? And of course you feel so great because you're like, yes, and I found even more. It's literally a psychology thing. It's crazy. Not only do you feel good that you found everything that you were looking for, but you found more. And that doesn't always make me feel good, to be honest. Like, I am definitely the challenger in this. And I'm like, but I don't I didn't want to buy things. So it's very specific when I go to Target or Costco and I'm like, okay, we're here to explore. Here's our budget versus, okay, no, I just want the groceries. We're sticking to the outside and we're out. So there's a very specific strategy behind Costco and how they do this. The first thing is the layout. They have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars perfecting the layout of the Costco store. And to me, this is crazy. So the longer you spend in Costco, there's a dollar amount. I think it's like $2.75, or maybe it's not even dollar amount. I think it's like 2.7 something X for every minute you spend in Costco, or every 30 minutes. I couldn't find the stat. It was on a podcast. I was like, dang it, why can't I find it? Also, it wasn't online. So bummer. But the more time you spend in Costco is a direct correlation to how much you're going to spend money monetarily wise. So what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that the longer you can keep your customers in your retail space, the more that they're going to explore, the more that they're going to add to their cart. So one of the things that they do is this thing called treasure hunting. And so there's no labels in Costco, which drives me insane, and which is why I'm very loyal to one Costco in my area and not all of them, because I don't like being turned around. So when you go into Costco, you know that all the outside is everything that you pretty much need. Everything in the middle is just a bunch of nonsense that's fun and, gives you that treasure hunting feel. I recently watched a video on, I'm really into like food and health and stuff. And one of the things that they talked about was like hunting. When you're hunting and gathering, you get like the satisfaction, like picking berries, or you're like killing your food, whatever it is that we would be doing back then. We don't have that nowadays, which is why people love thrifting. But I was also thinking that's why they love Costco, because you go and you just find things. It's kind of like you're hunting for things, AKA treasure hunting. They also rotate inventory very regularly because they know that their customers are, you have a membership, right? You're coming back twice a month, once a month, once a quarter, depending on how you shop, you are coming back constantly, and they know that. And they know that if they can get you in these middle aisles with a variation of different samples, okay? I'm not a big samples fan. I don't like food. I'm not a foodie person. I could eat tuna fish every day of my life. But most of us love food and they love sampling new things. And so, they strategically place the sampling at the ends of the aisles to bring you in. It's new things. Essentials are always, always, always placed at the furthest spot in the store. Like toilet paper, at least in my Costco, it's like the other end. So it's just ridiculous, but it means that you have to go all the way to the back, then come all the way. They've got you 2 opportunities to just get you to load up on stuff. So think about that with your layout. And I don't want to get too ahead of myself because we're going to get into layouts here in a minute. We can also talk about Target, because Target's store layout is very, very fascinating to me. I'm always listening to when they make strategic transitions in their store layout. So right when you walk in, Starbucks. Okay, first of all, like, don't even get me started on Starbucks. I'm not a fan here in Seattle, but there they have it. They're like, get your caffeine because you're getting ready to go just have the day of a lifetime. And so you walk in, and then they have that like easy grab section. So a study found that when you get a customer to put something in their cart within the first few moments of them getting into the store, they're more likely to buy more stuff the rest of their shopping experience. So if you're trying to save money, don't go to that little section where they've got like the $5, $10 goodies, because it gets you in this mode of like, oh, this is fun, or oh, I could do this. It automatically, your brain starts thinking, what more could there be? So you've got like that upfront treasure hunting feel, and then you're like, oh, well, there's more stuff in the store, but you've also got the impulse buy already happening and triggering and firing in your brain. And that is immediate dopamine and serotonin release. You're feeling happy because you put something in your cart. And it's fun and it's exciting. So small businesses can apply tactics like these, eye-catching displays, very purpose-driven easy to buy things at the very front of their space, using kind of that treasure hunting experience. Now, it's hard to do in a 10 by 10 space, but we're going to go through that in just a moment. So let's talk design layouts to encourage exploration and lead to sales. I pulled some really fun booths that we've had over the years, where it just has like a really fun effect. Now, obviously, you don't have to have our displays to encourage something like this. So please don't hear me on that net. But I want you to think about your setup right now. What does it look like? Wherever you sell, whether that's brick and mortar, a booth, a trade show, at a specific event, or if it's at a mall. We've been having a lot of people do mall pop-ups recently, because malls are quote unquote dying in the retail space. And so here's what we're going to do. I've got 8 points for you. They kind of counter and contrast each other. On the PDF, it will have this layout, and you can fill that in. And then I'll also put the one that has all the notes on it in there as well. So you'll have that. We will be discussing the 8 pillars that impact your booth, and things that you just don't want to miss that are very easy, low-hanging fruit. So we're going to talk about first impressions and then layout and flow. So when you think about first impression, you want something that grabs your attention instantaneously. You want bold branding, and you want a clean and inviting setup. Interesting fact, a study in the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that visually appealing setups increase initial engagement by 80%. I like to point out Apple here. One, if I had zoomed out on this image of this Apple store, it's above a road. So the store, you can literally see all the way through it as you're driving. I don't even want to get into what that is psychology, but they've used specific tactics and placed it there so you could see it, and you want to go in there and see what they've got going on. Apple is a great example of using very, very clean and minimal setups. So they don't have stock on the floor. They don't have anything that's not kind of secured. It's all experiential based, and it grabs your attention. They have bold branding, and they've got clean and inviting setups. So first impressions are really important. The lighting here, I think, is also very important in this space. Yes, they've got the overhead lighting, but they also have the natural light coming in from both different sides. So when it comes to layout and flow, we want to find natural pathways, we want to find engagement points, and we want to find points where we can encourage interaction. So I've done a lot of booth flips over the years, and feel free to put in the comments what you come to mind if you like some of these layouts. I think I have 5 here, and what you don't like about them, because I'm very curious. When it comes to a grid layout, this is what this is called, and this is from a blog post on Shopify that I'll have linked, and you can print these out, and I already put in my email so you don't have to be spammed, and I grabbed ththese layouts, and you can just play around with them in your own space. So grid layout is something similar to this, where you've got, it's like I think a convenience store or a grocery store, right, where you have an entire 3 walls of just products, and then in the middle is kind of your exploration area. There's always something, usually, and what they're calling here is a power wall, is what I think of like your big promotional stuff, your seasonal stuff, your gift basket stuff, the things that are like easy to grab the attention, and usually what most people are looking for in that season. Right now, it's obvious, it's holiday stuff. In the spring, it's like Mother's Day stuff and tulip festival stuff and like floral stuff. So depending on what season is happening during that space, you can also find here that the checkouts are usually always going to be right next to that entrance, right? Because how you enter is usually how you exit.
Obviously
next we have
for several months now, so she's like, your body should be used to it, but they
Thank you. We also have a herringbone layout, which is you walk right in, you've got 2 window displays, or what would just be the front of your booth or the front of your mall kiosk. You walk in and you've got all these different displays on either side. Now, I don't particularly like this layout because it feels very cluttered. And one of the first things that came to mind was how it could be easy for somebody, depending on how tall the displays are, for things to easily be kind of stolen. So you got to think about security, especially if you're doing a mall setup of any sort. We also have another loop layout, but instead of it being aisles, it's more of, think about like you've got some kind of gondola system where you have somebody checking out at the front and behind them is a display. And then around them is a bunch of more displays. You could just simply do this without, you could do a checkout here and like 2 A-frames back to back without all this nonsense on the side. Again, when you have a smaller layout, you have to condense. What they have called out here is your impulse purchase areas right next to your checkout. So the $5 things, the $1 things, are there even $1 things anymore? I'm not sure, but that's up to you and what you make, right? It could even be at the bottom of these impulse purchase areas. You could put your second sale type items there, which I think is important to put out. Then we have the free throw layout, which is I think what most people end up doing in a retail space that's a smaller footprint. You've got your entrance, you've got some window displays here, and then the checkout is somewhere off to the side, but near the entrance. As soon as you walk in, you've got like, you know, your Powerwall stuff. Usually it's going to be everything that's in your window display or everything that's drawing people in. Then you've got either some gondolas or some bistro tables, something to kind of activate small lifestyle settings on. And then you've got some displays kind of on the side. This one is very similar to another one I think I'm going to show at the end. And then the last one that I wanted to point out was kind of strategic power walls. Honestly, this kind of reminds me of that first one we looked at with columns, but it looks like there's no displays on the back, which might mean it's just a wall of marketing material. And this is kind of what Target has as their main layout, if we think about it. Except their impulse purchases, I feel like are everywhere. Okay, so moving along, we're going to talk about connection and appeal. So how can we connect with our customers and then also appeal to their dream lifestyles? So first we think about, I am creating a trade show booth for our space, our products next year. And I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I put our products in a space that talks to many different people, because there's many different uses for our products. And these are the things that I kind of came up with. And I thought, what a great area to put this in, because when you talk about people's lived experiences, we have so many like fun fashion trends and lifestyle trends. And I don't like to call them trends because I think for the most part, it's like you really like all the pink stuff, or you really like all the earthy greenery stuff, or you like lots of colors mixed together. And I just love that about people, because it makes you have to think outside of the box for who your customers are and how they want to see your products. And so one of my favorites here is this exact same couch, but totally styled differently. Like the blue would not appeal to me, but this red one, that would appeal to me. So who's in Camp Blue? I'm curious. And then we also have this laid out in like a color washing situation where they've got the floors and the wall painted the exact same way, and all the products that go in that specific lifestyle category. I think this is great because it allows you to do a personal touch, but also when you have a small space and you're trying to appeal to your audience, not everybody that comes into your space or that's attending that event or is at that mall is your ideal customer, and you don't want to waste your time or theirs trying to appeal to everyone. You really want your brand to appeal to the people that are actually going to buy your stuff. I think here, one of the things that are missing from these examples is more of that like actual storytelling. And you can let your Imagine do some of this storytelling, but from my experience is that people are not very creative and they don't put the dots together. You have to have some kind of keywords. You have to have something that connects the material to your story, to the end product, to how it connects to their lifestyle. So doing that through small words like made in your city, your state, made by, all of the things that you identify with, and really making sure that that's clear. So that way shoppers can also shop their values. Aesthetic appeal here. So when we're appealing to customers, we want to make sure that, yes, of course, that the branding is on point, like it is here in these images that I went and found. I was actually very impressed. And no, I did not help these people with their setups. They sent me their photos and I was like, wow, that looks really good. But they know their customer, they know who they're speaking to. This reminds me, and I'm not quite sure where this maker is located, but she's got all the blues. Feels very light and airy. It feels like maybe it's something to do with the ocean because there's a lot of blues, or maybe the sky. I'm not sure, but I'd go in and I'd check it out. She does have lighting underneath all of these shelves that she put. It's just not showing in this image. And then obviously the high quality displays allow for the cohesiveness and the appeal to flow more seamlessly instead of piecing and parting things together that don't match. Again, when we think about that initial image I showed you, like, what do you think about this cluttered, ugly space that's just a lot of stuff? What they don't have is things that match. And while you might like it or not, a clear brand is really important for that aesthetic appeal. A pro tip, I found this one out the other day and I thought, oh yeah, that's pretty simple, is like maximizing product visibility with cross merchandising displays. What that essentially means is you're going to put together a full display that's very specific to a group of your products that you can match together in some kind of lifestyle display. And I will point that out in one of the videos that we did with Up Next for the booth flip with Carla. I have an image at the end and I can kind of point out what this might look like for brands that maybe don't offer as much here, because obviously here, this is a retail store, they wholesale a bunch of stuff. It's easy for them to put that together. Here's some beautiful aesthetic appealing windows. I found this one as one of they won an award for this like display in this setup. And why? Because the benches match the wood that obviously match the trees. And then you've got like these candles that are very clear and separate. And it looks like there's a lot. So I'm not worried about scarcity or exclusivity here, but as soon as they start to go down, I might be. And they've got some things that you can like kind of explore here. So, and they've got a product brochure. This window display, I thought was so cute because the cow head comes off of the window. Obviously, not everybody can pull something like that off, but how could you bring some of that 3D-ness to your displays so they're not just flat? And then obviously this one of baby clothes, you're not going in there if you don't have kids or cousins and nieces and nephews is what they're called. I just got my first niece and she's adorable. And now I'm going into all of these stores and I'm like, oh, I gotta buy her stuff. I don't have to buy her stuff, but I like to think I do. So free resource shout out when it comes to what we just looked at. So various displays, different models. We're looking at what's called a planogram, and I found a ton of resources when it comes to planograms that are free. I'm personally going to check a few out and share them online and in emails over the next few weeks, especially coming up to our Black Friday events. But what you can do, it's called Smart Draw. You can drag and drop products that are kind of similar to yours and plan out what you want a specific wall or space to look and feel like. I thought that was really great, especially when it comes to like, those eye level things. So you'll get some of those templates and you'll see those in the follow-up. So next, we're going to talk about exclusivity and placement. When it comes to really setting your space apart, you really want some exclusivity going on. Really interesting cultural moment we're going through right now is these older legacy high-end brands are figuring out how to speak to Gen Alpha. That's what they're called, right? Not the one behind millennials, but the new ones. The very young people with all those funny words that they are coming out with the slang. They're trying to figure out, okay, how do we get Tiffany & Co. or Max Mara or Burberry, what, you know, these really expensive brands, how do we get them to appeal to the younger generation? And if you're interested, definitely look up some of those case studies because they're crazy. I don't understand how they do it. But one of the things that they do is like Tiffany, for example. You guys all know that this is the Tiffany blue with the Tiffany silver and all the stuff. We've got great branding, great coloring, you just know it. Every holiday season they come out with something limited edition. It's like limited stock. It's only going to be around for the first X amount of people that come into the stores. They're very special and unique to the year. They usually have something deeper behind them as far as internal branding and messaging. What they also do is, I've seen a lot of bigger brands now in store offer personalization things. So like adding their name to something, and that's been a hit. Obviously, it doesn't apply to everybody, but it's very interesting. When Amazon adds a limited stock messaging to their items, you see a 32% increase in conversions via an Amazon case study. I thought that was really crazy, but it works. I've tried it on our website. It's marketing. This taps into the tactic of scarcity and making customers feel like they're missing out on something that's really exclusive. And I say this with a grain of salt because you really do want to make sure that when you're using this messaging, it is true that it is exclusive, because your customers will pick up on it if it's not, and you'll lose brand credibility. Special edition items, I think, are a no-brainer for everybody in this group. Highlight any exclusivity with signage. Like, make sure that your customers and the people that are new to your brand that are coming into the first time, they don't know if it's exclusive or not unless you've got it in big, bold, red letters. Yes, ugly red, bold, but it's important. I've tested it even with emails. Using that red font it does change something. It grabs the attention. As far as product placement, I picked out some booths that I thought were really fun. Obviously, that use some vertical ledge stuff because those are the ones that I love seeing. And so one of the things here is that we want to highlight key products up front at the very front of the booth. So think about this Desert Roots. I believe it's bath body and, you know, some clothes. She's got a stand here at the front of her booth, and it's hard to tell with the depth here because you can't see the bottom of the picture, but it's a very big, long booth, 10 by 10. So at the front of the booth, she's got some lifestyle selling, right? Like, oh, beautiful clothes. And then she could have put a hat and some jewelry here to really level it up. She could have put a stool with a plant and like a candle burning. And then, you know, you're just setting the mood. So she's got some products here that are right up front, easy to look at. And if the customer is interested, right, they've already got that first buy-in, they're going to come into the booth. And then same with this booth right here. Wick and Wax Co. She's got very minimal products out on display because she does only do small batch items. And then she's got a bunch of add-on stuff kind of next to her checkout area. So one of the things here that I think is important to call out is you can group things in an all different manner of function. I'm going to kind of speed this up because we're getting low on time here. But we're going to highlight key products up front. We're going to group them by theme or function. Think lifestyle. If there's anything you can do to create that lifestyle scene, group it together right at the front. And then anything at eye level. So your average woman is about 5'5.5". Anything at eye level, plus or minus about 13 to 14 inches, is the most expensive place in the grocery store. So it's the most expensive place in your booth. That's where people are going to look. They're typically not going to look below their knees. They're not going to bend down and look. And if it's too high, you know, most people can't reach it. We have that issue with cabinets. You don't need it when you're trying to buy something. So now we're going to dive deep into a little bit of treasure hunting and operational things that I think are just important to remember. TJ Maxx and HomeGoods attribute their success to this like treasure hunting feel because leading up to like a 5% higher value on their spend compared to standard department stores. Because if you think about standard department stores, what is it? Everything's labeled. They don't change up the layout or the products. They've got a map of where to find things. They've got some wayfinding things, which I think is helpful in terms of IKEA, but IKEA paired that with that lifestyle experience. So by rotating your inventory, creating a sense of discovery, these brands keep their customers coming back. Who loves going to HomeGoods or TJ Maxx? I do, especially when I'm looking for gifts. So you can also do like a special find section. I'm trying to think of a store that does this. I think Target, they do that, like that space off to the side that's like all the holiday stuff. So that's like your specialty stuff. It's like the stuff that's not there regularly. When it runs out, it kind of runs out. You can also place like hidden gems and surprise deals. So offer a few items with like discounts or promotional things that you don't advertise online. That way you can test to see like, oh, does this product bundle make more sense at this price point in person versus online? You can run some tests there. Operational efficiency. So this one's kind of like, I'll skim through this because there's a lot behind it, but essentially what you want as the person replenishing your stock is somewhere where you can easily like add more stock, but you don't want to add it too soon because you want to make sure that your best sellers look like they're best selling, especially in person. You want to have something that's like a transactional friendly setup. So in this booth, you can see she's got a checkout area, obviously kind of in the back, out of the way. She's not in customers' faces, and she's definitely not like in here trying to get people to come into her booth. There's a lot of different options where people can explore products, and it's very organized. She's got behind this, I don't have it in this image, but she's got some bins where she puts her, backup stock for when she sells out. So first impressions, layout and flow, connection and appeal, exclusivity, product placement, adding some treasure hunting effects, and having really smooth operations are all the things that you want to have like a really impactful booth. I'm going to kind of go through some of these booth flips before and after. I know some of our audience is familiar with some of these. This is a local company called Wicks and Bath. I helped them curate their booth flip, and what was really fun is they did this over the course of 2 years, so they didn't like hash out the money to do everything all at once, and this gave them the option to like increase the diversity of their displays without knowing if they were actually going to use it or not. And they were actually featured on a TV show where their booth was kind of in the background, and they chose their booth because it was the most pretty, and I was like, yeah, win. That's exciting. I've done a few booth flips where we just change a single flat table and kind of make it a more booth with depth, where we can add more pictures, an area where she can do some of her art live. She added some plants to it here. Then we have another, Rachel is also local. A lot of these booth flips are local because I need to be there in person. So we went from a really crowded 3-table display. This is the first time I realized how terrible these plastic tables are for markets. They take up a lot of space. They're very clunky and they're very flat. You still have to add some kind of display on top of them. So adding in some pegboards, some A-frames, she's got a bistro table. She's added onto it over the years. Again, it's been a thing where she has slowly invested. And then obviously a fun little like coffee cart flip where we take it from, again, they had 3 tables here. I was like, that's just a lot of tables and it's very heavy and it takes a long time. I hate those tables. Anybody else hate those tables? So anyway, you get the point, right? Like taking a flat booth that's very 2-dimensional into something that's more experiential and has depth, has height. This booth was great before we did the flip, and she just wanted to know what would be possible if I went to the extreme other end and just curated the heck out of it. And I didn't get a full picture of the booth, which is very annoying on my part, but she had 4 different areas in the same 10 by 10 space. So then here we have our booth flip. And again, I didn't take a lot of pictures. I was like, wow, I got all the video, but not very many pictures. You can watch this entire series on our YouTube page where we met with Carla Shaw, and she and I and the Up Next team did a really fun booth flip. So you can kind of see we used a lot of her lifestyle images. We highlighted the more expensive products were at that eye level range. We did, I don't know if this is the final, I think we were right in the middle of it, but we were taking all of this stuff and putting it into product collections throughout her small, super micro space. So even having a small booth, you can have tons of big impact. You just got to think outside of the box. I'm gonna share with you. You can see this fun. Is it playing? I don't think it's playing. Look at that. Let me try again. you know what? The Wi-Fi is real bad here. So we will follow up with that video. And I wanted to save a few times for Q&A. So what do we have?
Sydney, thank you so much. I have learned a ton already, and it definitely has me thinking about all of the different ways we can infuse and level up each of our setups. I'm going to turn it over to Kristen, our head of community, who will help moderate the questions. We've had a few coming in, and we also encourage people to speak up, raise their hands, and we can invite you on camera or just voice to ask a question live.
Thank you, Sydney. That was amazing. We had a few questions come in. One from Juna. Any tips for a smaller market space like an 8x foot or an 10x8?
Yes. So I think when it comes to really small footprint booths, so that's a 10 by 10. Oh, did I stop sharing? No,
No.
Okay, great. So this is the smaller booth. She had, I believe it was a 5x8. So there wasn't a whole lot of room to add depth. So what we tried to do was have an angle because she had a lot of stock that she hid behind the pig displays on the right hand side there, and she still wanted to have some kind of interactivity. And I think as an artist, if you're able to bring some of your stuff and do it live, or you sew things and you can do things live. I had a leather bag maker, a Hanson Leather Co. They tested it out where they were like putting some grommets on their backs, like just really small things kind of off to the side. People had way more conversations with them and they were more curious to follow their long-term journey. So I think adding a little bit of depth, making it so there's a small flow, right? Just a little bit of flow where you can at least invite the customer to come in from outside of the chaos is going to be really important. Adding the height is, I mean, we're called vertical ledge for a reason, but the vertical height is just insane when you're able to add it. I'm always surprised.
I love the vertical displays. And the eye height tip that you gave is just we have another question that came in from Caitlin Y. I'm currently working on my space for one of a kind, and I find myself challenged due to it being a wall space only. I'm in the emerging space and it's 5 feet wide by 10 feet long, but with no walls separating each artist. Any suggestions or feedback or experience with this?
I found that comment and you kind of cut out, and it could be my Wi-Fi here, but let me read it really quick.
I can drop it back in if you want into the chat.
There are no walls separating each artist. Okay, so what I'm understanding is you've got a full wall that's just cohesive with everybody else there, and your art is being displayed on that wall alongside all the other artists in that thing, but yours is all condensed into one space. If that's right, let me know.
Caitlin, sorry, Sydney. Caitlin, feel free to unmute if you want to ask any specific questions.
Okay, you're right, Sydney. And I'm working with using the vertical edge pieces that I have from you. So I've been really like trying to brainstorm because I don't want to cut people off from shopping, but I want it to still be inviting and an experience because that's what I'm used to doing. So it's like hard for my brain to imagine just a gallery space.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering, so are you able to attach things to the wall?
Yes. So
Are you
you
able
can.
to use the wall?
You can use the wall, you can hang something if you want. No power tools is just the only limit. So anything that we can do like a little pin nail with, or advertising is fine on the walls. It's just respecting your space and, you know, not getting encroached on everyone.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if you're able to put up some kind of, not like maybe wallpaper, because I'm assuming you can't paint it, right? Like a trade show, like the one of a kind show in Chicago or Canada. But I'm wondering if you can put like some.
Sorry, it's actually the one of a kind show in Chicago that I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah, so because I'm not in their traditional area, I'm in their emerging artists, they have different rules than the
Mhm.
normal booths. So that's the challenge I'm having.
Yeah, I would definitely figure out if you're able to get some kind of clip-on lighting to
Mhm.
really bring like that depth on the wall, right? But a gallery is a gallery, but you can also figure out like if you can add wallpaper, like removable wallpaper, or even like put up like craft paper, but have it painted in the colors that you want behind the pictures. Something that really can separate that one wall space you have from the rest of the wall spaces. Granted, the experience that the showmakers want to do here is give you that gallery feel as the user coming in. So
Mhm.
staying in line with that, but making it stand out your section somehow. I think it's gonna
Yeah.
be.
And because you know what, and I don't want to take up any more time, but I did like my homework by going to the spring one to see what it looked like. And it was just so many tables. And I felt like we were so squished by everyone doing only a table. And I'm just trying to avoid that. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks, Caitlin. Smita, do you want to unmute and ask your question about the 400 square foot storefront space?
Hi. My question is, I'm about to set up for a storefront, which will be 400 square feet, thanks to Up Next, Pop Up Next team. And I have bulky products. I have clothing, I have pillows, pillowcases, table linens, ceramics, candles. So do you have any suggestions or display strategies so that each product stands out and yet it looks inviting, cohesive, warm, welcoming?
I mean, so 400 square feet is pretty good. That's like that's 40 by 10 or 20 by 20, if I'm doing my math right. Something along those lines. So you do have a good amount of space. It might not seem like a lot of space, but that's where I think more compact displays are going to be important. Because you have a lot of different products, something like the A-frame is going to be really helpful because you can put like I would heavily lean into lifestyle selling in this space. How can you add a chair with a pillow and a throw, with a side table and a lamp and a candle and the coasters? Like you have a lot of stuff. See if you can condense it down into one lifestyle scene, and then next to it or behind it have the stock and the products. Because what I'm envisioning is like a few A-frames with all the pillows, the blanket, all the things kind of laid out really nicely. And then you've got the chair with all the different stuff right next to it, kind of in front of, if you've ever been to Pier 1 Imports, that's immediately what I'm kind of thinking about. I know they're not really in business at all, I think, because I shopped their warehouse sale or the closeout sale, and it was like they've got like these small areas where they have lifestyle stuff, but then the walls, the perimeter walls, were all the stock and inventory.
Mhm.
And then when it comes to like clothing, you could even do something where you put like some poles in between the A-frames that we offer that you can hang some clothes on, or a small garment rack off to the side. It just depends on what your ratio break is in your products, is where you're going to want to focus your lifestyle on.
Well, thanks, Sydney. That's really helpful.
You're welcome.
We have two more quick questions, but Sydney, someone let's see, Esme Neely dropped in a photo and was wondering if she could have some feedback on what that looked like, if it was cluttered or not.
Yes, so I'm looking at that image now, and it looks like you've got one table in front, and I don't know how far back this goes because it kind of looks like someone behind you or you have very similar displays back there, but I'm just going to assume that you're just that one table in the front, and you've got two kind of tiered displays on this side. In this case, it does feel a little bit cluttered, but it's not necessarily in a bad way. It just needs to be cleaned up a little bit in the sense of adding more lifestyle. And your collections, like you've got jewelry on both the right and the left side. You have some signage there on the top left. You have some signage here in the middle. So if we kind of go back to that Carla Shaw photo, we were kind of working with something similar in the sense that if you're able to put the product, an image, like if you've got some really nice lifestyle images that are very curated in some very nice frames, I didn't say expensive, I just said very nice frames, alongside the product collection that that person in the image is wearing, it could really elevate the brand by kind of clustering those more together. And then as far as it looks like you have some perfumes and lotions, I do apologize if I'm wrong. But those could definitely be more paired with one of those collections or closer to a POS. So if you were to have the POS kind of on one side. But you could also do a sampling table, like a bistro table or something closer to that front of the booth where you have the sample of the perfumes or lotions. That way people love sampling things. It's just ridiculous. Or smelling things. So if you're able to put something more closer to the front of the booth with a little bit more lifestyle, I think that would elevate it quite a bit. It's just very simple little things to change.
So I know we're running a little
Thank
bit
you.
over. Oh, yes, sorry. Sydney, so I have one last question for you, and this came from Kate. For products with rich stories behind them, is there a rule of thumb to determine the best way to showcase these narratives? Currently, I rely on personal conversations, maintaining eye contact with customers to share the stories directly. However, I'm unsure if this is the most effective or appropriate approach. Should the stories be highlighted elsewhere to better connect with customers and enhance their experience?
Yeah, so man, this booth flip I think would be great for a lot of us here. So it's on our YouTube page. We'll put a link in it in the follow-up notes. But Carla had a very similar background where a lot of her products are they are gold-plated organic material, right? Correct, Kristen and Allison? Yep, look, she's
Yes.
some of them. So each one is very unique and different, and she's got different collections within that same like pattern or organic product that the base uses. And so I was trying to do that here, where you've got the organic product in a photo frame, right? Like the raw ingredient, and then some facts about that product or ingredient, why they chose it, bullet point kind of things. And then she had these little vials that had the actual raw ingredient in like 3D format. And then what we ended up doing was putting these products that matched up with that thing next to it. And so that is a story in and in itself. And to your degree, yes, you are going to have those individual conversations where people are interested in that specific thing. But if you've got a few extroverts that come to your space and they want to do the reading for themselves, these product cards and product groupings allow for that. Now, we didn't add a whole lot of storytelling here because the images do some of that for us. So I think that is very interesting. We do talk a lot about that in her booth flip. So I definitely recommend looking at that.
Great.
All right.
Sydney, thank you so much. This has been eye-opening, such a fun ride to see all of the different ways that we can apply these masterful tools to our small businesses. This is a little taste of what we do inside the retail playground. There's clearly a lot of interest. Maybe we'd be able to have you back inside for guest office hours or an interactive workshop. I think there are a lot of people who have their creative juices flowing and are eager to start trying out some new tips and tricks. So we'd love to welcome you back again.
Yeah, I'd love
I
to.
see.
Really quickly though, if any of you did have more pressing questions or you're just curious, go ahead and DM me on Instagram, send me a photo of your booth. I'll just voice message you back because I'm not going to type it out. And I'd be happy to help consult on some of those.
Getting lots of questions, lots of interest in vertical edge products, but really just lending your expertise has been so wonderful. We're thrilled to have you. We will be sharing the playback of this along with lots of resources and some additional bonuses coming shortly to your email. Please do check your spam mailbox. There is a chance it will get caught in there as a new email address coming to you. So we look forward to staying in touch with everyone. We really appreciate your time, Sydney, and everyone's for taking a break from the holiday season for this opportunity to learn and share for each other. So, Sydney, any parting words?
No, I'm really rooting for all of our small businesses this year who are doing the Black Friday, Cyber Monday events. Keep your messaging very simple, clear, concise. I'm having some tips on our Instagram and our emails next week. So definitely I'm rooting for you guys. Can't wait to make it out to some markets. I'll be in Montana, so we'll see how it goes.
Ooh, enjoy. Thanks so much, everyone.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.